Derek Stewart speaking, and welcome to the DC Stewart Show. Glad to have you aboard tonight. It's on a Wednesday night. Isaiah and myself got together tonight, and we want to come and bring some good shows to you tonight. Got some good topics on hand. I have Isaiah here at my side, which I always call him my sidekick. So, long story short, my name is Derek again, and Isaiah is sitting here. What's going on, Isaiah? How you doing?
What's up, man? How's it going? Things going
Everything is
good, kind
going
of good.
good. I got you online tonight. We're
Yeah.
putting together another show, and I got some really, really interesting topics to talk about tonight. What do you think about
Let's
that?
get at it. Get at it.
Okay. All right. So make sure you hit that like button first and subscribe to us. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe. We're setting everything up. We're going to have some, like I said before in the past, we're going to have some giveaways and some other things that we're going to be doing here with this show. We're going to some big places, and we appreciate you supporting us. First topic, we'll get into it. Let's unpack it. The three best bodybuilders of all time. So I'm going to give you some names. I'm going to give you Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm going to give you Ronnie Coleman, and I'm going to give you Lee Haney. So I need from you to tell me which pound for pound bodybuilder is the best of all time in bodybuilding based on the amount of awards they won from the Standout Award, which is the Mr. Olympia. Who do you think?
I think Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie
Okay,
Coleman
why
was
do you
huge.
think Ronnie Coleman?
Well, I mean, you talking about other folks other than Ronnie Coleman. This guy used to be super huge, and it just he had all the definitions from head to toe. He was wide. He had small waist. He had big upper body. He had a big neck. He had huge quads. And man, just to see the exercise that he used to do on the stage. I mean, once he oiled down and he's
You're
shiny,
talking about
man.
his pose, right?
Yeah, those poses outstanding. And he won Mr. Olympia what, 9 times, I think.
8 times. I believe
Man,
he clocked it eight.
it was
Yeah,
eight
eight
or
times.
nine. I know it was up there, but man,
Okay.
he just was winning them back to back because the guy physique was chiseled to the
Hmm.
T. And he wasn't just a guy who just was cut. He was a power lifter too. I seen him squat some weights that looked like it was gonna snap his back, where he had to put on this little bodysuit and then he tied his knees up and he had all the guys to actually help him get inside this bodysuit. And I had never seen that before, but boy, when he did it, I don't know whether it was 800 pounds or something like that he squatted, but he
Hmm.
had his knees wrapped, and then he had put on a bodysuit, and then these guys spotted him, and he went and, I think he came down 1 or 2 times, but boy, he hit it. And I mean, that weight looked like it wasn't the kind of weight a human could endure, but he did 2 squats, 2 full squats, and these guys wasn't doing them half squats where you just go 3/4. They would go all the way down and touch the bar when they're going down like this, and then come back up. And his
Hmm.
favorite saying was lightweight, lightweight.
I remember I used to hear Ronnie
And
say
that
that a
was his
lot during
slogan,
his training.
lightweight.
And his training was intense, like you said. I mean, I've
Hmm.
seen some of his videos from his training, and the guy was so dialed in with his training regimen. I mean, from the
Yeah.
time that he won the Mr. Olympia trophy, and he took maybe a couple weeks off, maybe a month, and then he was right back at it, training the very next year for that
And,
next Mr. Olympia award.
he had a full-time job at that time too.
Yeah, he was working for the
Remember?
Arlington Police Department, right? He was an
Yep.
officer.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah.
It's
And he looked
amazing
good
to
in
be able.
his uniform. I've seen a couple of photos of him with his shirt on. And I mean, I don't even see how the police department had the size for him. I mean, his arms were
Well,
so
they'll make a
huge.
size for you.
Yeah. I guess
Well,
they had
I've
to
seen.
custom make his size for him.
Yeah. Hmm.
So
So
Ronnie
they'll
was
they'll make a size
5'11",
for you.
about 300 pounds. And he packed on a lot of muscle, as you stated earlier. It's amazing how he was able to get that amount of muscle onto his frame because the human body produce enough muscle, but you have to pack on the extra 60 or 70 pounds of solid muscle, from the upper torso to your abs, all the way down to your legs. And it just seemed like he was a cartoon character to me. I mean, it was amazing how the guy looked, and that's why he won the 8 Mr. Olympias, because he was really up against some stiff competition, man. Because one of my favorite bodybuilders were Flex Wheeler, Ken Flex Wheeler. And
Hmm.
Flex Wheeler was a lot lighter than Ronnie, but Flex symmetry and Flex's ability to be able to pose on that stage. I think one of those years, I think he had Ronnie, and I don't know what happened, but the judges just felt like, I guess Ronnie just, overcame whatever,
Yeah, Ronnie was so big.
Flex
That's
was
a,
doing
I
to
mean,
him.
I think Flex was, muscular as well, but Ronnie just was so huge, man. He was big, man. Wide, had these huge quads, and like I said, and then his forearm definition and his biceps and triceps was huge too. I
Hmm.
mean, when he turned and flexed this way, you looked at his arm definition, and then he'd grab the hip and twist it in and bring out all of his back muscles. And man, you say, "Damn it, Arnold, how did this guy get this big?"
Yeah, he had huge quads, huge hammies. I mean, his calves were really really defined, for the muscle that was on his upper thighs and his hamstring, as well as his glutes. And the guy was just he was really talented, and he really had a good career, and he's legendary in the bodybuilding community as to this day, even though he's having some
Yeah,
issues with his health
he's
now.
got a lot of
And
health
I hope
issues,
he
man.
gets better. I mean, because I would hate to see his health overcome what he's accomplished in his
Yeah,
career. I mean, Ronnie's kind of to that point now, and I wish him well. But one of my favorite is actually I'm gonna go ahead and pick Lee Haney, and the reason let me give you
yeah,
a reason I tell you Lee Haney. Lee Haney was about 5'11". He wasn't as heavy as Ronnie. He didn't pack on as much muscle as Ronnie, but Lee Haney literally won around the same amount of Mr. Olympia, trophies that Ronnie did. I mean, Arnold
mhm.
Schwarzenegger, he was like running third with the two guys. Only difference
You know,
between Arnold is Arnold was 6'2" and Lee
mhm,
Haney and Ronnie was 5'11". So they looked a lot thicker
mhm,
when it came to their their definition and their bulk comparison to
yeah,
Arnold. Arnold looked good, man. Arnold was the type of guy that Arnold looked like. Arnold was just tall. I mean, he had the right height to be the
mhm,
champion in
mhm.
bodybuilding as compared to those two guys. So,
You know, I thought you was gonna mention Luke Ferrigno. Luke Ferrigno had a big, wide chest, man,
oh,
and
Lou Ferrigno was a
he was
giant. I mean,
huge
Lou
too.
Ferrigno was about 6'5", 6'4", six
Yeah,
five, and he packed
yeah,
on all kind of muscle too. And I want to
hmm.
make sure that I give Lou Ferrigno credit, but Lou never really won any championships. I mean, he was
I don't know. I didn't
competing right there
understand
with
that though
Arnold.
because he was big, man, but I didn't ever see him win anything.
No.
And I think, psychologically, I think that got to him too, because he worked out like crazy and he would be in those high competitions, but he never won anything that I know of. But man, I think that psychologically it did some damage to him because, he said he had some mental issues afterwards, some self-esteem issues because he just worked his tail off and he never could win anything for some reason.
Okay, so I'm going to make a correction right now. I'm going to fact check myself because I was the one that was, brought it up about his titles. According to the records, Lou Ferrigno won the Mr. Olympia in 92 and 1993. So, on a
Hmm.
correction note, Lou Ferrigno was a two-time Mr. Olympia champion, which is very impressive. I mean, because some bodybuilders never win a
What
Mr.
year
Olympia
was that?
champion.
What year was that?
It was 92 and 93 according to
Oh,
this one.
okay.
And he won other awards, IFBB Mr. America, IFBB
Yeah,
Mr.
Incredible Hulk
Universe.
too.
And he was
He,
strong. I mean,
look,
he won the
he's the
world's strongest
Incredible
man
Hulk.
competition.
Remember that when he was the
Yeah, he was
Incredible
the
Hulk?
Incredible Hulk. He was in that. He was in that show. Yes.
They had a doll made out of him too. Remember? They had a
Yes, I do.
doll.
Yep. They paired him with Bill Bixby, the actor Bill Bixby, and Bill Bixby would actually transform into the Incredible Hulk, and Lou would just come out of nowhere with all of those tight clothes on and just torn pants and torn shirt. It was a nice show. I enjoyed watching the Incredible Hulk over the years, and I want to say that they're still showing it on certain channels. I mean, right now. So, getting back to Lee Haney, I like Lee Haney because Lee Haney was the type of champion that he was very humble about his ability to be able to pack on that amount of muscle and his ability to be able to pose on that stage. Because I'll tell you one thing, posing was a big, 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 part of that bodybuilding. Their focus was the posing. I mean, how they pose down, and that's what the judges was basically looking at, was the bulk, the symmetry, the definition, and the posing. And you had to have all of those right, or otherwise you weren't going to win.
That was favorable to the judges, and then some of them had like a front pose because they had a wider chest. But
Right.
some of them just had like hamstrings was bigger than the other one, so it was
Correct.
favorable to the pose of their choice. So I used to enjoy watching those guys, even the little thin ones that wasn't as bulky, but they just had such deep definitions and cut in their muscles.
I think
And
Arnold, Lou Ferrigno, Lee Haney, and Ronnie had the thickest chests I've ever seen,
mhm,
with Ronnie being number one, of course.
yeah,
Because Ronnie was bigger than both of those guys, man. Ronnie dwarfed those guys when it
Ronnie had
came
a
to his
huge
chest
neck too.
size.
Yeah, his neck was thick too,
Oh
man.
God, yes, yes. His neck was huge, and just for the comp. Well, see, the thing with Ronnie is Ronnie knew he could beat them guys because Ronnie knew he had the definition and the bulk to beat those guys like Flex Wheeler. Because that one year, and I can't recall the year, but it came down to him and Flex, man. The pose down, it was the last two. It was him and Flex. And man, I thought Flex had him. I really, really thought Flex had him. And I think Flex thought he had him. And the judges awarded Ronnie the Mr. Olympia. So, and you could see kind of the disappointment on Flex's expression, that he was like, I've competed against this guy all
You
these
know,
years, and then somehow I just
but he'll
can't.
get one of them.
I can't get one of them,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
think Flex Wheeler deserved one of them.
yeah.
He won quite a few Arnold Classics, which was the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic, which was another big show that a lot of bodybuilders competed in back in that time. Kevin Levrone. Oh man, Kevin Levrone was a monster. I mean, Kevin Levrone had a really thick chest too. And he was kind of short as well. I think his height was between 5'9", and let me verify that right now. Kevin Levrone's height. But Kevin Levrone should have actually won quite a few more as well, because he didn't have as much success winning a Mr. Olympia, but he never won one. He was one of the best bodybuilders of the 1990s, according to this information, but he won 20 pro shows, and then he became an actor after he left the bodybuilding, the bodybuilding community. He became an actor, but he held the record for the most wins as an IFBB professional until 2001, and then Vince Taylor took over from that. Going back in time, I would have to bring up Robbie Robertson. Robbie Robinson was he was a bodybuilder back in the 70s, around the time that Arnold was winning all those championships. And the guy was short and smaller, but his definition and his ethic was just unmatched, unreal, man.
You've reached the end of another episode of the DC Stewart Sports Talk podcast. Be sure to connect with us at Facebook and Twitter.com. Your voice is important, so head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Catch our next episode.